Hi, I'm Taylor, and this is my channel, Mom on the Spectrum. This is part 3 of my autism education series for friends and family. And in this video, we're going to be covering the question, what does it mean to be autistic? So I received my autism diagnosis about 5 years ago. And before that point, I had a lot of misconceptions about what autism actually was. If I would have had a more accurate understanding, knowing that information could have radically changed my life, it could have radically affected my relationships in really meaningful ways. So, my hope is that by sharing this information, you can feel more deeply connected to the autistic people in your life so that the autistic people in your life can feel more understood, more supported, more validated. Overall, knowledge is power. And the more we know about each other's experiences, the safer this world feels, the more connected we feel. And I feel like those are some of the most important things that we can be focusing on right now. So thank you for taking the time to learn more about what autism truly is. I'm going to take a bit of a clinical approach at first, just to share the actual diagnostic criteria so you know how autism is diagnosed, what signs clinicians look for. And then I'm also going to be sharing real examples sent in from community members so that you can get a better understanding of autism through actual autistic experiences, actually autistic people. That's so important whenever you're learning about this. If this series sounds helpful to you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out so much. It's much appreciated. Okay, first I'd like to share a definition of autism. This is a working, constantly evolving definition. If you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. All of our experiences are different, but here's kind of a general idea of the autistic experience. Autism is a naturally occurring neurodevelopmental variation that affects how a person experiences and interacts with the world. It influences communication, sensory processing, social interaction, and patterns of thought and behavior. Autism exists across a wide spectrum, meaning each autistic person has a unique combination of strengths, challenges, and ways of processing information. Rather than being a disorder to be fixed, autism is increasingly understood as part of human neurodiversity, a term that recognizes neurological differences as valid and valuable forms of human diversity. Autistic people may use spoken language, alternative communication methods, or a mix of both. They may be highly sensitive to sensory input, have deep interests, and process emotions and relationships in ways that differ from non-autistic individuals. Respectful support for autistic people centers on acceptance, accessibility, autonomy, and agency, not conformity. Inclusion means honoring each person's way of being and ensuring they have the tools, environments, and relationships they need to thrive. Some core traits of autism include sensory differences. So, an autistic person's brain may register sounds, lights, textures, smells, or tastes more intensely or less intensely than others do. It can also involve social processing differences. So, autistic people often prefer direct communication, honesty, and clarity, while many neurotypicals rely on subtext or reading between the lines. Another core trait of autism is having repetitive patterns and routines. So, there's a lot of comfort in routines and pursuing special interest. Repeated behaviors can help regulate us in a world that constantly feels overwhelming. And then the last core trait I've got on here is deep focus and passions. If there's an autistic person in your life, they've probably info dumped about something that they're very passionate about. We often experience intense interests and pattern recognition, and we can often spot details that other people might miss. Autism is not a lack of empathy. There's a lot of misunderstanding about this. I feel like oftentimes autistic people experience a surplus of empathy. We feel so much empathy for other people that sometimes it may come across as the opposite simply because there's so much of it to process that sometimes we're not sure how to communicate what we're feeling. It's also not something to cure. Autistic people are whole humans. We're not broken. We don't need fixing. We just need to be better understood. We need others to learn how to help us create a world that supports us as much as it does other people. Not broken, just different. One helpful metaphor for me is to think about this as us running on a different operating system. So if you want to think about it as Mac versus PC, both of those operating systems can accomplish very similar things, but they go about it a different way. And that's really what the autistic experience is like for me. I mean, my life looks very similar to a lot of other people's lives, but the way I go about my day, the types of processes I have to do in order to complete the same things that other people do, those processes look very different. Now I'm going to share the diagnostic criteria that many people use to diagnose autism. This is from the DSM-5, that is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The last time this was updated was 2013, so I'm just going to put that out there. Our understanding of autism has changed every day since then. We keep learning more. The definition, the understanding of autism keeps evolving. So in 2013, the DSM-5 listed these as the criteria for diagnosing autism. I'm going to simplify it for us. There's a lot of technical terms in there, but the simplified summary of the diagnostic criteria. Number one, to be diagnosed, a person needs differences in both of these areas. One, social communication, and two, behavior and interests. So under the social communication category, all three of these must be present. Trouble with back and forth conversations or sharing feelings or interests. Differences in nonverbal communication, eye contact, gestures, facial expressions. And difficulty building or understanding relationships and adjusting to social contexts. And in the second category of behavior and interest, at least two of the following must be present: repetitive movements, speech, or use of objects, strong need for routines or sameness, distress with changes, very focused, intense interests, and unusual reactions to sensory input, over or undersensitive or unusual fascination. Other requirements, in addition to these, are that signs must start early in development, even if subtle or masked until much later. Differences must cause real challenges in daily life, either at school, social circles, work, etc., and it must not fully be explained by intellectual disability alone. There are 3 levels of autism diagnosis. Level 1 is considered needing some support. Level 2 needs substantial support, and level 3 needs very substantial support. If you're an autistic person watching this and you're preparing for an evaluation, it is very important to pay attention to this criteria, because if you are seeking an autism diagnosis, you can help the clinician have a better understanding of your experience by providing support for each of these bullet points. And I have a video that will walk you through how to do that. Okay, now that we've gotten through the clinical stuff, I am really honored to be able to share the next section with you. What does it mean to be autistic as told by community members, people who are actually autistic? So I read through, just know if you sent in answers, I have read through every single one that has been sent in. Thank you so much for taking the time to share these. If you're not autistic and you're watching, thank you so much for taking the time to learn about life through our eyes. Nervous Squirrel says, it feels somewhat like being the Joker in a traditional set of cards, depending on what game is being played. I'm either highly valuable, a detriment, or excluded entirely. The challenge for me is to embody that I am valuable and worthy of love and respect, even in the many situations where the rules of the game say otherwise. I thought that was such a beautiful analogy. I mean, being the Joker, it's just, thank you for sharing that. Gazelle said, the experience/sensory level is dialed up to 11. I'm wanting to participate, but not being able to or not knowing how, and truly caring. Reef said, my energy is my currency, and I must protect it with rest, clarity, and real purpose to feel whole. This is an excerpt from a beautiful letter that was written by Ron. Ron said, my mind sees details first and takes time to build the larger picture. In a store, I see every single bright color, every single item on the wrong shelf, and every person standing between me and where I need to be. I jump when pallets are dropped. It's not just a store to me, but a collection of surprises. In a restaurant, I hear everyone's conversations, the smoke from the kitchen, and the hurried looks on people's faces. It's not just a restaurant to me, but a vaguely dangerous place full of surprises. I retreat to a quiet and safe place whenever the world is too much, sometimes more than once every day. I need to eliminate the noise and distractions, and I need a place that feels safe and stable. I'm withdrawing from an overwhelming world, not from you. I spend time in my safe place to recover my sense of safety and equilibrium. When I sense another person's feelings, they become my own. Everyone's emotions take me over. Knowing I am autistic has allowed me to make sense of a lifetime of this, but it does not change the intensity of the experience. These experiences will always be a part of me, but now I am learning to give them room. Such a beautiful excerpt from a beautiful letter. Melanie says the only thing that's changed is that I understand myself better now and how I've been denying my true needs for years. I'm going to be more honest about what I need now. It's probably going to be more and better rest, less sensory input or distraction, and more time for myself. Meredith said, increased exposure doesn't improve my ability to tolerate sensory or social overwhelm because my brain's capacity to handle my own personal triggers is limited, period. I cannot retrain my nervous system to handle more or to handle things in a way that's more acceptable to society. So, however good the intentions are of my loved ones, I wish instead of suggesting that I keep trying or get used to it, that they would try flipping their perspective to see how they or society could accommodate me. In advocating for myself, I'm entrusting my loved ones with my most vulnerable feelings and asking for help with the thing that is perhaps the hardest struggle of my life, taking up space. Ron said, when interrupted, I feel split in two. Part of me is still processing what I was doing before, and the other part is trying to attend to the other person, but aware that I'm distracted. I go back and forth every few seconds, trying to listen with attention, but also thinking about what I was doing before. That experience is exhausting for me, maybe more than the initial interruption. Me too. I related so much to this comment, and this relates a lot to autistic inertia, which I have a video about I can put up here in the corner if you're interested in learning more about that. I also have, for those of you watching who want to go deeper, I have autism education classes that work for both autistic individuals and their loved ones. You can find those classes at momonthespectrum.life/classes. The Jangles 77 says, a big part of my experience, especially as a kid, but still some as an adult, has been that the tasks and skills that come naturally to me and those that require a lot of deliberate work seem to be the inverse of most people's. Through my life, people have been quick to recognize how easily I catch on to some things, and advanced in reading and math as a kid, taught myself to play multiple instruments. Then they make false assumptions about the basics that I must be advanced in as well. They fail to recognize how much I struggle socially or how easily overwhelmed I get in situations that are normal. Grayson Black R7R says, for me finding out I'm autistic at 38, it feels like never fitting in. It feels like being in a glass cage and watching everyone else live and exist in a way you can't, and in a world you don't understand, and hating yourself for it. Realizing I was autistic was suddenly feeling understood, seen, and heard, and knowing that I am normal, it just doesn't look like everyone else. But to someone like me, it is. Lovely Addie says, to me, it's being in my own world, having a lot of feelings from my sensory experience and also from my empathy. Everything I do is thought out, even if it doesn't appear that way. Big thinker, big feeler, big life. Subnormality says, to have different preferences than what the world is generally oriented around, to always feel like you're in a foreign country, regardless of where you are. And that response came in a lot, like being born in a foreign country, not knowing the language, not knowing the customs, not really having a lifeline, just being put in the middle of it and having to find your way. Jenny Eliz is the shiz said, it means understanding everyone, but no one understanding you, like a universal blood donor who can't receive any blood type but their own. Nutmeg76 said, after years of trying in the world, late diagnosed in my 40s, hearing criticisms, seeing weird looks, being looked down on, misunderstood, being ignored or not taken seriously, taken advantage of, less likely to get a good job, I lose all confidence. It can wear on you, so the few things you're good at, you don't even have confidence in those anymore. Depression and anxiety just feel like the norm at this point. People offer solutions as if you're neurotypical, and it's just not the same. I really resonated a lot with this next one that I'm going to share from LC5666. They said, my experience as high masking, low support needs is that it's like having a lot more books in your library. It isn't better or worse. It's like the difference between two different scenarios when you need to make an apple pie. Number one, go to the recipe box, take out the card with grandma's apple pie recipe and make the pie. Or number two, try to find the right book in a stack of books about apple trees, pastries, physical properties of gluten and non-gluten flours, and using cold water to make pastry dough, a dozen magazines with conflicting articles about whether or not to use Granny Smith apples, salted butter, and brown sugar, and a stack of pie plates of every possible material. We might end up with the same pie, but my way takes a lot more processing of information. It's not a perfect metaphor, but it's like everything in my mind has a hyperlink to 5 other things. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is linear. It helps with creative solutions, but in-depth analysis takes a lot of mental energy. Wow. That is so accurate to my experience as well. Thank you for putting that into words. Neil Decker 4036 says, in social situations, sometimes I feel like the only sober person in a room full of drunks. Other times it's like I'm the only drunk person in a room full of sober people. And other times I just want to not be perceived and just get whatever I have to done so it's over with. Megan 431 says, overstimulation, rarely feeling understood, and having a very rich interior life. Supermobile 66 said, autism is both knowing and not knowing what you don't know. Some things I don't just understand, I get them, I absorb them and focus in on the minutia. Some things like social interaction, implication, subtext, I miss. Often I'm aware that something is being communicated and I don't grasp its meaning. Other times I miss it all completely. I'm introverted, but sometimes I want connection and I just don't know how to make it happen despite decades of trying. Marty Magoo 7065 says, it means walking around without my skin, nervous system constantly exposed to the elements, holding my own heart in my hands in front of me at all times. So emotional, so curious, so empathic, so sensitive, so aware. Diagnosed at 54, learning to love myself at 55. SDOS2IM says, many days, if I have to go out in the world for longer than an hour, I end up feeling like my skin has been sandpapered and I'm wearing rough burlap. It makes it extremely hard to maintain a job and pay my own bills. There are a lot of comments about this feeling of like your skin being affected. And that's been an experience for me too. When I'm overwhelmed, it's like my skin, things feel like they're underneath my skin. It's a very uncomfortable feeling when I'm dysregulated. Mary Stone 1526 says, constant fight with my own brain to allow me to do the things that need doing, while also constantly being annoyed by myself and everything around me. Clothes annoy me, food textures annoy me, sounds annoy me, a nonstop struggle to appease my brain so it can allow me to somewhat function. R. Ted J. said, the pervasive feeling of being too much and not enough. And that, again, is one of the common themes that I see in our community, this constant feeling of I'm too much, but I'm also never enough. Pip36 says, to be perpetually misunderstood and underestimated, to be considered oversensitive and fussy or difficult, to never be able to get your true inside mind expressed outside for some weird reason, to appear slow-witted because you miss cues or take longer to process things, to feel like an outsider literally everywhere. Sovereign Symphony says, being autistic is like having a passive/automatic game skill of detection without the ability to turn it off or modulate it, or even process all the data coming in at once, but then getting blamed by others for not being able to hide your struggles. Airy Fake again says, feeling too much and not enough at the same time. DYL Gibson says, it feels like being a keen observer of the human experience while unable to interact or participate in it fully. More Prana Gardens says, it means that I think and feel more deeply and am more honest than most of the people around me. I wouldn't trade it, but unfortunately, it also means that I always feel like my soul is vibrating out of sync with the rest of the world, and somehow that ends up being my fault. Infinitesimal Ho7IT says, watch us light up when we feel safe. I love that because there is nothing like autistic joy. And if you've seen it, you know how pure and beautiful it is. Trish PJC 2023 says, it feels a bit like watching a foreign movie with no subtitles, like I'm on the outside looking in, not following the whole story, just pieces here and there. Hearing others laugh at a joke, not getting it, and feeling left out and confused. Often feeling like I'm multiple steps behind most everyone else, and when I finally catch up, they've moved on. Feeling shame for being different, yet also feeling proud for being true to myself, no matter what. It's exhausting. And then lastly, Desiree Casper 1894 says, seeing things others don't see, understanding things others don't understand, different from the rest, but not in a negative way. My brain works differently, yet not all autistic folks' brains are wired the same. We autistics are an anomaly, if you will. When I was diagnosed at 38, it was as if the puzzle of my life finally fit. Being autistic means belonging, not to the world, but to the diverse spectrum of folks that are neurodivergent. It's like finally coming home, a quiet recognition, a sense that every part of you is seen and fits here without explanation. It isn't just comfort, but something older and deeper, like your spirit has known all along this was where it belonged. It's both grounding and expansive, as if the world finally makes sense. There are so many beautiful stories represented here in these examples, and I wanted to share so many of them so that you could feel the depth, the intricacies, the complexity of the autistic experience, the paradox of what it feels like to constantly feel like too much and not enough. These experiences are so real and raw and authentic, and I want to thank everyone again for sharing these. I want to thank you for watching and learning about the autistic experience. Autism is not just a set of challenges, it's a unique way of interacting with the world, with processing information. It's a whole way of being. It's not some puzzle to solve, it's a perspective to value. So thank you for taking the time to learn more about that. I would love to hear in the comments if you have questions about the autistic experience. Let's hear from you. And if you are autistic and want to share from your perspective what it means to be autistic, I'd love for your voice to be added to the conversation as well. Quick reminder that I do have those autism education classes available if you want to go deeper. momonthespectrum.live/classes. Please give this video a thumbs up and leave a little comment, even if it's just an emoji. That really helps me out so much, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. Be kind to yourself. Have a great day. Bye.